What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the other day, we had an announcement for a game that is straight out of the 90s and it's going to hit a lot of nostalgia for people out there. And also, it's going to a Nintendo system you wouldn't have expected. We'll go over that, though, here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Starfield with some pretty surprising sales information coming in. While we've looked at the concurrent player count numbers, now we actually have it charting, even though the game's not technically out yet. And we'll also be talking about Tokyo Game Show as the full schedule for different streams and companies has been released. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Pete Hines, Bethesda, and Redfall, which I probably don't have to tell you, didn't do too well when it came out, but there were promises made before its release that it seems like Bethesda and Microsoft are going to see through, which does include a certain patch that should move the frame rate to 60. However, this was in an interview with Pete Hines in GamesIndustry.biz, where he basically talks about their plans for Redfall going forward. This, where he says, the Elder Scrolls Online's PC launch was not flawless, but we stuck with it. Now it's like this insanely popular multi-platform. It's the same with Fallout 76. Redfall is no different for us, okay? We didn't get the start we wanted, but it's still a fun game, and we're going to keep working on it. We're going to do 60 FPS. We're going to get it to be a good game because we know as a first-party studio, Game Pass lives forever. There will be people 10 years from now who are going to join Game Pass and Redfall will be there. And I mean, he's not incorrect about that. I assume, yes, 10 years from now, a lot of the content that Microsoft is making right now will be available to people probably for the first time even. I mean, people, again, cycling in new gamers will probably find Redfall and say, oh, wow, this is either a really good game because they did fix it, or I guess they abandoned it because it's still running at 30 frames per second. They keep saying it's coming, that 60 FPS patch, so we'll see. But I guess let's clear that hurdle first and get the frame rate there. Also, PAX West did happen over the weekend, and there was an interesting post that was made online that had people talking once again about the Microsoft-Nintendo partnership, and this is from Phil Spencer over on Twitter, where he says, had a great time visiting PAX West today with my family. Fun to get to walk the floor and just play games. Had a blast playing 4-player Super Mario Wonder at Nintendo Live. Thank you, Nintendo America, for letting everyone play. And there's a picture of him coming out of the warp pipe and all of that with Super Mario Bros. Wonder in the background. People were reading very, very heavily into this message that there were backroom deals going on and all kinds of stuff happening there between Nintendo and Microsoft, when really it's possible that Phil was just enjoying a video game and wanted to take a picture where a lot of people were taking pictures. It's a big photo op spot where people can stand in the warp pipes and get their picture with that backdrop. That's as far as I'm reading into it, at least for this occasion. Although I think it's pretty obvious that yes, Microsoft and Nintendo are still working on things in the background, with Minecraft being incredibly popular on the Switch in Japan. I feel like there are still some other things that'll be coming to the Switch from some different studios at Microsoft. But in this case, I think it's just Phil Spencer enjoying a game. Oh, and speaking of Minecraft, it does look like a certain version of the game is finally happening, and it's one that people have been hoping for and waiting for and asking for, with Minecraft Enhanced Edition, or at least Minecraft for the Xbox Series, and I assume also Minecraft for the PlayStation 5. It was spotted over on the ESRB ratings board with just Minecraft Xbox Series, and the thing that people are hoping to get out of this, I feel like at this point, probably is just ray tracing and maybe some other additions when it comes to just visuals and enhancements there. But ray tracing has been talked about quite a bit. Remember, this was actually part of the court case with everything that was going on with the FTC and Microsoft, because it was brought up that they didn't get dev kits in time actually to make the Minecraft PS5 version, so the Xbox Series version may have been held as well, but I guess they finally found the time, and we could be seeing this announced maybe at Tokyo Game Show, considering, yeah, Minecraft is very popular in Japan, so keep that one on your radar. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a game that has now been announced that I feel like surprised basically everyone online, as it's not only a new game in an old series, but also it's coming to the original Nintendo. Now, this is a cartoon that many of you, the older folk out there, may have grown up with, like me, watching on TV like Nickelodeon, and that's Rugrats. Well, take a look at this posted up over on Media Indie Exchange's Twitter account, saying, fresh off Mix Next and published by the Mix Games, Rugrats Adventures in Gameland. They have an entire trailer that they posted up that shows some interesting visuals because, yeah, it looks like it would work on an original Nintendo system, but it goes a bit deeper than that necessarily. Where they say unique playable babies. So you have Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil. You can play solo or local co-op. And get this, you can toggle between retro or HD artwork. See, you can jump between the two of them. It's kind of like what we've seen in other games. I'm thinking of the Halo Anniversary Edition, where you could jump back and forth between those, but many other games have also done this. They do mention there are multiple levels with unique themes, secrets, and boss encounters from the Rugrats world. And I will admit, I'm looking at this, visually speaking, they have like the text on the bottom that basically says it's not final necessarily, like how it looks. It looks maybe a bit too advanced at times for that original Nintendo system. Even though the aesthetic obviously plays into that 8-bit style, there are still some things going on screen with the sprites, backgrounds, animations that it might be maybe you need to pare back slightly. But here's the interesting thing. While it says consoles and PC for 2024, it still kind of leaves it up to the imagination. Wait, does that mean it could be on the original Nintendo? Because it's sort of mentioned on the box that they showed in that trailer. Well, Chris Scullion asked this on Twitter, saying, will it actually be available on NES 2 without the HD stuff, obviously? The box says it is, but I can't tell if it's just a placeholder. Media Indie Exchange replies, sure will. So next year, Rugrats Adventures in Gameland will be releasing on consoles, PC, and the original Nintendo system. So we'll have to wait for more information on this one around the price of an original Nintendo cartridge, I assume with the box, manual, which is very important. Make sure they get that one right. But yeah, I will check this one out. Again, it does play into the nostalgia of like early morning cartoons with Rugrats and stuff, but that was a very, very popular cartoon back then. So this coming out now is gonna basically play off nostalgia of people like me in our 30s and remember that time. Not like the I guess the Rugrats cartoon that was more than a decade later was all grown up. No, the original Rugrats cartoon. But interesting stuff. And maybe I will get that original Nintendo cartridge and we can take a look at it here in a video and see how they put it all together and everything. But really, really cool stuff there. I guess keep an eye out for a new Rugrats game next year. Next up, let's talk about Tokyo Game Show, which will be starting in like 2.5 weeks. And this is going to be kind of tough, specifically for me covering this, because generally when it's going on, it's like nighttime or like early in the morning here, Eastern Standard Time. So I might be a little off with some of the news, might have to move some stuff around, and you might see more videos pop up randomly to cover this stuff, because I am genuinely expecting some pretty sizable announcements to happen at Tokyo Game Show, with 2 days in particular that I'm going to be focusing in on. And fortunately, we now have the schedule that's been released for some of these live streams, and we can see this here that was released. And I mean, you can see immediately there's 2 days, the 21st and the 22nd, that I would say definitely pay attention to. While there is still D3 Publisher on the 23rd, I feel like you're going to see the majority, or at least the bulk of announcements, happen in those first 48 hours. So, I mean, we can see they have like the opening program, keynote, all this, but then you get down on the 21st, Thursday, which again will probably be, that actually might be late, no, it'll be still early in the morning for me, Japan Game Awards, but Microsoft kicks off the entire show. So definitely keep an eye on Microsoft. As I mentioned before, they seem to be making a lot of moves and partnerships and have been working alongside many developers funding through Game Pass. You could see a lot of Game Pass announcements here, as well as you could see that Minecraft Enhanced Edition announced here, considering, again, Minecraft consistently charts every single week in Japan. So it is a very popular game there. Then we have 505 Games. Sega and Atlas, of course, keep an eye on those, because they mentioned that they were going to have a live stream that I would say is worth tuning into. So it could be anything there, especially with all the Sega stuff we're hearing in the background. Atlas technically could talk about Persona 6, but I'm not necessarily expecting it still, though. Level 5 is a lot happening right now. Koei Tecmo Games, Capcom. So right there, that block, I'm expecting quite a bit of stuff to happen there in those couple of hours. Then moving to the 22nd, Koei Tecmo Games, Hoyoverse, Square Enix, and Project Moon. I am curious if Square is going to show up here with anything new, or maybe just updates on previous projects or things that are coming up. But depending on maybe what they show at what we assume to be a state of play coming up, they could have some stuff to really go over here, which could include Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Seems like the path is clear for them to really ramp up marketing around that one, and Tokyo Game Show seems like a really good spot to just get things moving. But certainly exciting stuff coming up here at Tokyo Game Show on the heels of Gamescom, so a lot happening, and I think we're gonna have some fun with Tokyo Game Show, even though, again, the schedule's kind of off for me Eastern Standard Time. We'll be getting a lot of this stuff into Newswave, and hopefully seeing all kinds of fun game announcements and updates, so stay tuned. Next up, let's talk about Starfield and some interesting sales information that's been released now, as the game itself has charted technically before it's officially released. First though, let's take a look, as they did hit a new high for their concurrent player count on Steam, now sitting at 248,632 players. And I consistently see it anywhere from 150 to 230, 240,000 people online. And this is all like early access, so you would have to pay $100 really to get in to this version of the game on Steam specifically. Again, on Game Pass would not be tracked here. That also includes on the Windows Store side. That you can pay additional $35, I believe, and then that gets you in early. So 248,000 people, 250,000 playing in early access just on Steam alone. Again, concurrent player count, really the typical sales ends up being exponentially higher than that. So there's a very good chance just on Steam alone, 1 million people have purchased the game through early access. But here's the interesting one, and this maybe confused a few people. We'll go over it. The UK sales charts. Remember, this tracks physical sales, all right, over-the-counter sales, boxed copies. It charted at number 7, but I mean, let's take a look. Hogwarts Legacy, by the way, number 1, and there are now rumors going around that is a very safe bet, by the way, that a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy has been greenlit. Yeah, I would think so with how well it's done, and I mean, there it is, number 1 again. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga at 2, Mario Kart 8, it's a 3. Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom at 4. Armored Core 6 dropped to 5, but still holding in there again for the Armored Core franchise. Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, then Starfield Premium Edition Upgrade, which, by the way, is a code in a box for $100 on Xbox. So that seems pretty good for Starfield Premium Edition Upgrade. Again, it is on Game Pass, so some people may just be hanging out waiting for the 6. Actually, it'll be tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, that will go live. So if you're just waiting for it, you can play it tonight and don't have to wait till midnight, which again, I like that release schedule. Then Grand Theft Auto 5, of course, Minecraft on the Switch, and FIFA 23 to round out the top 10. Now, I'm not necessarily like surprised to see so many people excited to just jump into early access on what's Bethesda's first new IP in like 2 decades or something. But the fact that it has garnered this kind of response for a $100 version, even physically in stores, does make me think that when the game actually releases later on tonight, that you'll see those numbers go up drastically, like across the board. Sales charts and also concurrent player count on Steam. So shocking no one, even though I know people were thinking the reviews, it needed to be in the 90s or something. No, I mean, the game, it still has that Bethesda pull to it for a lot of fans, or maybe just people looking for that next big release as we head into what's going to be a very crowded time for gaming. Yeah, it turns out people are pretty interested in Starfield. So we'll see how things continue along when the game releases with the concurrent player count numbers and eventually the NPDs, but we'll have to wait for about a month or so to see that data. In our last bit of news, let's talk about a really strange situation around what has to be one of the most anticipated games in history. When it finally gets announced, I would not be surprised if the internet actually breaks in half, right? But GTA 6, we figure it's coming up on its reveal, could be a year, maybe 2 years out, but it is coming. We know that from, well, Rockstar and Take-Two telling us, and them also projecting some very large returns in the next fiscal year, so kind of measuring up maybe for 2024 holiday or 2025 for that release. But there was a very odd audio clip going around, supposedly from Strauss Zelnick, which was shared on Twitter here. And this exploded online with over 1 million impressions from the Take-Two Interactive CEO discussing the release for GTA 6, mentioning that an announcement is expected October 23rd, with the next GTA expected to launch in October 24th. So the odd thing about this is, yes, it did get dinged with a copyright claim and pulled down. However, if you listen to the audio clip, which you can find, I think on Twitter, it's still circulating. I think it's on Reddit and stuff. I'm not going to link to it if Take-Two actually is out there, which I've told you guys before. The two companies don't mess with these kind of things. Nintendo and Take-Two. They are ruthless with the striking. But in this case, I feel like if you listen to the audio, it seems kind of unnatural, at least some of the sounds, some of the interjections with and and stuff. And it kind of sounds like it's just AI generated. So in my mind, the fact that people are doing things like this on Reddit, where a visual comparison between Strauss' leaked voice and actual voice using spectrum analyzing, they're getting really deep into this over there, tells me that this game is going to be absolutely ridiculous with sales when it does come out. And we're getting a spectrum analyzing on a CEO's voice call, apparently, to see if it's legit, just to find out when the game's getting announced. So it would be pretty big if they announced it before the end of this year. But actually, that was a poll question that I asked. Let's see how that turned out. And we could see that poll where I ask, will Grand Theft Auto 6 be announced before the end of 2023? 84% say no, 16% say yes. So while I do believe that voice clip was just a fake generated through AI or whatever methods, I do still think it's possible that GTA 6 gets announced before the end of this year. I wonder if that would be something that Jeff Keighley could secure at the Game Awards. The reason I don't necessarily think that's the case, I feel like Rockstar or Take-Two are going to line it up to just be an announcement. It's just going to happen in its own space because it's GTA 6. And if you were at an award show where that got announced and then you had something cool to announce, doesn't matter what you announced. Doesn't matter. GTA 6 was there. That's what everyone's going to be talking about. So it almost is like its own thing, like its own event. And it would be this massive thing that happens. So I think Take-Two should actually treat it that way. Just drop it randomly on a Monday and see what happens. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Minish, says, the new Amiibo package could hint at smartphones too. Nintendo has been trying to dip their toes into that market, and most modern phones have NFC readers. So compatible software could be Mario Kart Tour, Pokemon Go, the Nintendo Online app, and whatever they come up with next. I think that's an interesting take on that situation, because I do know there is like a method to use your Android phone to spoof amiibos, and technically then yes, that obviously can read amiibos at that point. And I mean, Nintendo has been playing around with the mobile market, but I almost feel like they're also kind of backing away from it a bit now. But who knows, maybe that is an element to the next Nintendo system, is phones get more involved outside of just the Nintendo app. Maybe that's the way they even approach achievements or something, is through the mobile app that's linked to your system. It's Nintendo. They like to try to make things harder than they need to be. But I think the idea of being able to scan an amiibo in for some of these mobile titles would only increase their reach of what they like to sell alongside of their systems, which are basically toys. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to go that route. It'll be interesting to see if they do it, considering on the back now, the packaging, they just removed all of the standard systems you would expect with the 3DS, the Wii U, and the Switch. Maybe they didn't know if they should put an iPhone or an Android on the back, and they didn't want to get into that entire argument. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Well, there's that new Rugrats game that's coming out next year. Are you going to try to buy the cartridge for the original Nintendo? And then also, what about Tokyo Game Show with all these publishers being there? Which one are you looking forward to the most? And then what we're seeing now with Grand Theft Auto 6, of course, the rumor mill continues to churn, but do you think Take-Two could actually drop the trailer before the end of this year and just shock everyone? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.